The incident involving Paul Pelosi gets weirder and weirder, and it's also an incident in which the facts appear to change, or at least the reporting of facts, both from the police and from the media, seem to alter based upon whether or not the facts fit a kind of given narrative. Now, let's start with the facts as initially presented. You have a guy who shows up to attack Paul Pelosi, evidently in his underwear. So not only is Paul Pelosi in his underwear, no surprise, it's his own house, it's 2 a.m, but the assailant is reportedly in his underwear. Wow. Then when the police show up, supposedly, the two men both have a hammer. Not one hammer, but 2 hammers. And the assailant attacks Paul Pelosi, not before, he's not lying on the floor, but while the police are there. That's odd. How did the police know to get there? Paul Pelosi made a phone call, and the phone call was, he said, from his bathroom. So according to Paul Pelosi, he went to the bathroom. He took a, quote, bathroom break from the assailant. He's under assault. He goes, hold on, I got to go to the bathroom. The guy lets him, evidently. Paul Pelosi says his phone was charging in the bathroom, and in the bathroom, he's able to make a phone call. Now, that makes no sense. But granted that maybe this happened that way, Paul Pelosi then tells the police, and we can hear this on the police recording. The police is summarizing what Paul Pelosi told him. And what he said is, the guy's name is David. He names him. And then he says he is, quote, a friend. Now, this is on the recording. You can go listen to it. And so put those facts together and ask, how does this square with the left and the media and the Democratic narrative that this is some kind of a violent Trumpster, a right-winger, a MAGA type who has been radicalized by MAGA rhetoric and is engaging in political violence? It doesn't square at all. And so it appears that having realized that the more plausible explanation given the facts I just outlined is that Paul Pelosi arranged a meeting with this guy. He knew him in any event. The guy shows up. Who knows what was going on and how the two men ended up in their underpants. But Paul Pelosi then calls the police, reveals the guy's name. So clearly he had some familiarity with him. And so all of this would appear to imply that this might have been some kind of tryst, some kind of rendezvous that went sideways or went wrong. Now, the San Francisco police have subsequently come out and tried to, quote, clear the matter up by introducing new facts. So new fact number 1 is that no, there was a mistake, there was misreporting, and they both were not in their underwear. Only Paul Pelosi was. Number 2, I think more significantly, Paul Pelosi supposedly did not know his attacker. But this fact number 2 is now problematic because there's a police recording in which Paul Pelosi reveals the guy's name is David, and the attacker turns out to be David DePape, age 42. So Pelosi clearly did know his name, and Pelosi also described him as a friend. Now, part of the reports I'm reading say that, well, Pelosi was just being unbelievably cunning. He tricked the assailant into allowing him to go to the bathroom. He was, in a sense, putting on the idea that the guy was a friend. But I'm thinking to myself, that doesn't make any sense because the man wasn't with Pelosi in the bathroom. Pelosi was alone. That's how he was able to make the phone call. He was not under any rhetorical pressure. It wasn't like the guy had a gun to his head or he was trying to appease the guy and talking to the police in his presence, in which case he might describe the guy as a friend so as to reassure the guy. But no, quite clearly Pelosi was by himself volunteering that he knew the guy, knew his name, and that he was a friend. So how do you square that with the sort of new edited version of the facts that we're now getting. It looks to me like this is a cover-up job and that the San Francisco police, so sort of, let's call it, Pelosi's militia, are covering up for the most influential family in San Francisco, namely the Pelosis. They release facts, and the facts are very incriminating toward Pelosi. And so they go, it's time to revise the facts. It's time to come up with new facts so we can blame the guy who really needs to be blamed, who is, guess who? Trump. So evidently Trump, who's not on the scene, knows nothing about this, is dealing with other issues in Mar-a-Lago and elsewhere. He's the real culprit. So you can see what's going on here. This is really what the left does. They come up with a narrative. It's aimed at obviously influencing the election. Look, just as we've been warning you about violence coming, political violence coming from those domestic terrorists, here is a gruesome example of it. That doesn't fit. This doesn't match. This makes no sense. Okay, let's trot out some new facts. And of course, the media will obligingly amplify them to create a kind of new narrative. So this is a case where it's not that the narrative is developed from the facts, but the facts are constantly revised and changed to fit the narrative. My advice to you is basically caveat emptor, let the buyer beware. Don't believe a word of it until we see the body cam, until we see the videotape.